You're listening to the How to Talk to Girls podcast with your dating coach, Trip, from tripadvice.com. Do you struggle with getting girls to like you? Well, you're going to learn step-by-step how to talk to girls to create deep connections and meet the woman of your dreams. Here's your host, me, Trip. Hello and welcome to another episode of the How to Talk to Girls podcast. I'm your host, Trip Kramer from tripadvice.com. Very excited to be here today and talk to you about a topic that I get some questions on once in a while, but I never really dive into it deep. And I got some thoughts here, especially because I've had experience in this area and I've talked to many students and clients of mine who have dated various ages before. So I'm really excited to get into this today and maybe shed some light on whether or not it's going to be best for you to date someone who is going to be your age, younger or older, go through maybe some of the differences of what it means to date someone who's older, younger, or the same age. And of course, this is all relative, right? I mean, if you're listening to this and you're 60 years old, maybe a lot of people are going to be younger than you. Might be not as common to date someone who is older. Or maybe you're going to be 22 years old listening to this, and most women are older than you. Well, we're going to tackle all this today, and I'm excited to do it. So let's get into it. Okay, so we're talking about age. Here's the thing. You might have heard this before. You might have heard that age is just a number. And I've heard that before, but I never really gave it some deep thought until recently. What does that mean? Age is just a number. That's what people say when they try to say, oh, age doesn't matter. It's just a number. That's all it is. It's just saying how many years you've been on this earth. It doesn't mean anything different. Well, I disagree to an extent. Yes, you can meet a 30-year-old. Forget about your age for a second. Let's pretend that you meet a girl who's 30 years old. Now, here's the reality. You might not know this, but a 30-year-old can be extremely immature, okay? Extremely immature. Not have her life together, be a total mess, which you might assume because someone is 30, that they have a good job and they're going through their life and things are, pretty good and they've had a lot of experiences and they're older. But that doesn't always necessarily mean that. And you can meet a 22-year-old who maybe hasn't had as many life experiences, but she's extremely mature and she's someone who you get along with really well. So that's what it kind of means in terms of age is just a number, because it doesn't necessarily matter how many years they've been on this earth. It all depends on maybe who they are as a person. However, there is something to look at that I think is very important that's pretty common between a lot of the ages. Some things that are, some commonalities that I've seen that I think you're going to agree with when we meet women in early 20s, mid-20s, late 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on. Or maybe even in college if you're listening to this and you're 18 to 22 or 23. Okay, and the thing that's common here is values. Okay, so I'd say in terms of age, you can pretty much get along with anyone. You could be 25 and you can date a 40-year-old. That's fine. You might be able to get along with them, and age is just a number and it's all good. But there's values that you need to think about. And I'd say that depending on what age you are, you might have different values. Now, when I talk about values in this case, I mean that at different ages, people are at different points in their life. So there's different things that are important to them. So for example, a woman who is 30 and who is single might be thinking a lot more about children because she knows that it's more difficult to have healthy children as she gets older, which is true, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, but the eggs inside of a woman tend to go bad as a woman gets older. So there's higher chances of having a disabled or mentally disabled or just an unhealthy baby as she gets older. So a 30-year-old woman is probably thinking a little bit about that. Now, a 22-year-old woman, girl, whatever you want to call it, she might be thinking a little bit more on the job front, right? She's a little bit more about maybe finding herself, thinking about who she is as a person in terms of what kind of career she wants. And of course, a 30-year-old might be going through that too, but let's just be honest here. Generally speaking, it's more common that a woman is going through that in the 22 age. Then you have a 40-year-old. Maybe she's been through all that, and now she just wants to adventure and travel. She's had kids, or maybe she doesn't want kids and knows she doesn't want kids, so she's trying to move on and do different things with her life. So that's what I'm talking about with values here. And it can get really specific. I mean, even a woman who's 25 can have different values from a 22-year-old, from a 30-year-old, from a 35-year-old, and someone in their early 40s, late 40s. There's different things here. So to answer the big question that I've put as the title of this episode, should you date girls older than you, younger than you, or the same age? The answer lies in terms of what your values are, and depending on if you are willing to put up with the values of the other person. So for example, you may date someone who is much younger than you. Maybe you're 35 years old and you meet someone who is 22 years old. And let's say their values is finding a job and getting into a good career. Now, you don't have to have the same value as her. I'm not saying, oh, you got to be in the same exact place as her in life for this to work out. No, but it's about, can you handle that that's where she is in her life? That's where she's concentrating on, and that's where she's focusing on. Are you able to handle that? For some guys, you might not want a girl who's in that position in her life. But other guys, you might be okay with that. You might be happy with that. Or maybe you're at a point in your life where you're trying to figure that out too. And hey, it'd be cool to have that kind of same thing go on. So you got to ask yourself these deep questions. I want to tackle this a little bit more in 2018. We're going to get deeper here. We're over 200 episodes on this podcast, and I want to really go deeper here and help you, to really figure out what it's going to take for you to find an amazing woman, someone who's really going to match with you and it's really going to be good for you. Because that's the next step here. And of course, if you want to learn more about attraction and things like that, go to old episodes. They're still here. Get my program called Hooked at getherhooked.com. Of course, that's available to you to learn how to attract girls. And then you can listen to podcasts like these to learn how to really take it to that next level in terms of what you really want. Okay, so again, we're talking about the lining up of values. So let's keep going with this. Let's say you're 25. You're 25 and you meet an older woman. And you end up falling in love with her, and things go really well, and she's 35 years old. Is that bad? Is that weird? Well, maybe in society that's not as common. You might not see younger men always being with an older woman. Of course, maybe for just fun, casual experiences, but for something that's going to head towards a relationship, you don't see that as much. But can you handle that a 35-year-old may want kids very soon, and you're 25? Or maybe you don't even want kids and she doesn't want kids. Well, hey, maybe you found a match here and it doesn't matter. Age is just a number. You guys get along great. Everything's fine. So maybe that's okay for you. So how can you figure this out? How can you figure this out? Because, of course, you don't know for sure. I mean, you could meet a 22-year-old or a 25-year-old who wants kids right then and there. And that's, more of someone who's a little bit older who wants that, or maybe wants to get married soon. You might find a 38-year-old, maybe you're 32, you meet a 38-year-old, you're not ready to get married, but she's like, I want to get married, and that's what I want. Okay, so the whole idea here is to look inside of yourself and figure it out. What is it that you value? What do you value right now in your life? What do you want your lifestyle to look like? Because it's about figuring out what that is and then finding the complement to that, like a puzzle piece, right? You want a puzzle piece to fit in with each other, to connect the puzzle pieces. That's what we want for you too. So again, really age is just a number. So it's not about finding a girl who's younger, older, the same age, whatever it is. It's about finding someone who has the same values as you, plus a girl that you know you want to date, right? So someone might say, well, I don't want to date a 40-year-old, even if they do the same values as me, because they're older and I just don't want a woman to have that much experience. Well, again, we're coming back to values here, right? It's the same idea, talking about experiences. Maybe you want someone who is your exact same age because you don't want them to have more experience than you, because you want to go through that journey together. Think about this. Write this down. See what comes of it. This is really cool too, because you can really get to know yourself better when you do this. And I really mean write it down. I mean take a pen to paper, because it absorbs more in your brain when you do that. It's not the same as just typing it out on a note on your iPad or phone or whatever. Of course, you can do that first and then transfer it to paper, but it really means something when you transfer it to paper here. And really think about what it is that you value. Now, if you're like, Trip, I don't know what I value. I'm not sure yet. Well, my answer to you is either do a little bit of a deeper dive, look up a list of values into Google and you'll find a bunch of them. Okay, so either do that. In fact, you know what? Let's do that right now. I'm going to type in list of values really quickly so you kind of know what I'm talking about here. So I'm just going to name a few. We have adventure, boldness, curiosity, fun, growth, kindness, knowledge, learning, openness, respect, self-respect, status, trustworthiness, wealth, wisdom. What are your values? What are your values? What is the lifestyle that you want? Write this down, dive deep, and if you don't know, start dating. Start dating and figure it out. Figure it out. You might not know. Of course, a lot of the answers that you're going to want to figure out in your life doesn't necessarily come down to writing things down on a piece of paper. I think it's a combination of being aware by writing them down, figuring it out, thinking about it, and then combining that with you going out, meeting new women, going on dates, and seeing what it's like to date someone your age or a little bit younger or maybe even a little bit older. Play around, experiment. That's kind of what life is all about. However, you might be saying to me, Trip, I'm 30. I don't really have time to experiment here. So what am I doing? Well, then I'm going to ask you to dive deep and figure it out fast. How do you figure it out fast? Like I said, start doing some research. Get a therapist, talk to a therapist. Figure out what is it that you want with your life. Okay, now you might be in the hardest situation where you're like, I'm at an age, don't know my values, but I don't want to waste any time. I don't know what to tell you, man. I really don't. I don't know what to tell you. It's just time to get to work and go fast and then do what I call hire slow, fire fast. That means you meet a girl and you're like, I don't think this is working. End it. Move on. Hire slow, fire fast. Fire them fast if it's not working out. And hire slow. Take your time. Get to know them. See what's going on. Date a few girls at once and see what it's like. Date a few girls at once and see what it's like. Hop on some apps. Hop on some dating sites. Get to approaching. Or get my program Hooked at getherhooked.com. Make this fast for you. Stop wasting time trying to do this all on your own and get some help here. Get the program to assist you so you can learn how to attract women faster so then you can go through and find out which woman is going to be good for you. So it's really about taking action. I'm trying to think of other examples that might help you out, just to give you some ideas here so you're not just doing this all on your own, So let's just go through a few more examples. Let's say maybe you are 35 and you're like, you know what? I want someone young and fresh and someone who isn't so jaded in the dating scene. Well, you might want a girl who's much younger, maybe who's 22, 23. But if you're like, well, but I still want to get married and have kids, well, I think 22 is too young. So it's probably safer to go maybe 25, 26, where they're still young, still fresh, haven't been completely jaded by a lot of dating, but at the same time are a little bit more ready for something like that. But here's the deal. You're going to have to find this out from the girl. You're going to have to ask her questions. This is what dating is all about. Dating is about meeting somebody, learning about them, learning what their values are, and seeing if it matches up with yours. Don't be afraid to ask those questions on a date. You don't have to sit there and ask questions, 10 in a row about her values and ask her, oh, what are your values and what do you value? But no, ask her, what she wants out of life. I think it's a great question. But keep it chill. Just ask that one question. Ask her, what do you want out of life? I'm always curious to meet people who have life plans, or maybe they don't have a life plan. Are you more of a go with the flow person, or are you more of type A, kind of have things figured out? Right? So you'd say that to a girl and you'd find out if they're more, structured and this is what I want, and then they'll tell you, or they're more loose. And that's a value too. Do you like someone who's a little bit more kind of loose with their plans, a little bit more spontaneous, or do you like someone who's a little bit more rigid or somewhere in between? So really, we're talking about you doing some more list building here, right? Sitting here and making a list and figuring out what do you think would be a good complement to your lifestyle. So then when you hear from a girl and you ask these questions and you get to know her, you're talking to her on a date, well, this is going to tell you. Yeah, I know this sounds like a lot of work, right? Like, why can't dating just be fun? And why can't I just have fun? Well, it can be fun. The whole process is fun. It's fun to get to know people. It's fun to flirt. It's fun to have a good time. It's fun to experience people. It's fun to do all that stuff, but also take it seriously. I mean, that's if you're looking for a relationship, by the way. If you're not looking for a relationship, you want casual fun, that's fine too. I even talk about how to do that in my program called Hooked at getherhooked.com, by the way, if you don't know. So it all depends on what you're looking for. maybe this episode isn't for you if you're just like, I just want to have fun. But let me tell you something. This episode is for you because that's a value. That's still a value. You're not valuing commitment right now. Or I should say you're not valuing monogamy. Right? You're valuing just kind of having fun and enjoying dating. Right? That's okay. That's totally okay. You're allowed to do that. But you got to know that no matter where you want to go in your life, you need something. You need something to work on so you can get somewhere. Because eventually, if you're not thinking about it and you let it all just kind of fall apart and you're just like, oh, I just want to have fun and not care about it and not work on this stuff, well, it's going to be a disaster for you at the end. And you're going to regret it because you're going to wish you put a little bit of mindfulness into it so you got to a place where you wanted to be. I know people who are upwards of 35, 40 years old. I'm like, whoa, where did the time go? I was just having fun. I was just learning some stuff and I wasn't really putting stuff into practice, but I was just kind of casually dating and not having real goals in my dating life. And now they're 40 years old and they're still single. And you only have one life, man. So what is it that you want to do? And what do you want out of it? Figure it out. Get some awareness and see what you can do with it so you can, actually have a life that's worth living for. And it doesn't take much, just a little bit of mindfulness, awareness, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, so you know kind of what it is that you want and what would line up with you. Now, we got kind of deep here, I know, just talking about age, but this is important. This is important. We got to a whole new level here because as we're learning, it's not just about age, okay? Age is just a number, but do your personalities connect? Do you enjoy time with her? Do you have the same values? So think about that. Don't forget to check out GetHerHooked.com to get my program called Hooked. It's actually only $67, and if you don't like it, you can get it returned, no problem. For 60 days, you can try it for free. If you don't want it anymore, we'll give you a refund, but I'm telling you, there's a guarantee here that if you do the information that's in there, you do the techniques, you will learn how to get a girl hooked on you. I give you the entire step-by-step A to Z system on how to do it. So get your hands on it today at GetHerHooked.com. All right, that's what I got for today. Hopefully that helped, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.